All right, folks, here we go. Yes, JR says he's ready for the Connect on this rainy Thursday. Guess where we are? Yep, we are in Dedham. Outside, jury selection continues. I was just inside a moment ago. All right, JR says we're good to go. Now, I'm using some different mics. I want to hear how it sounds. I think it sounds good. Yeah, I think we should be okay. Yep. Hi there, Brenda. There's Rosie. Yep. Yes. All right. Now we're going to start in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right. Now, right now, as we speak, we are live on Facebook. Let me check the X connection, everybody, as we're tracking two stories. Well, at least two stories. And then any breaking news. There's a wild story in Foxborough. But right now, this is Dedham. Here is the courthouse, Norfolk County. And it is jury selection is underway. There I am with the Karen Reed case. So let me just check our connection on X, which I think is fine. Yes. Yep. Okay. This guy makes a lot of sense. Yes, he does. Yes. I'll give you an update. It's a little bit of a slow process, but they're getting there. Hold on, let me check YouTube. Oh, yes, there we go. Whoa. Fentanyl overdose. Oh, all right. Fentanyl overdose alert. All right. Now, I'm not going to say who. One of my favorite people is watching. So, one of my favorite people is watching. And I want some people to know I do invite like various people, not everyone. And anyhow, because of my views on the case, the people that feel a certain way don't want to come on, which is totally fine, right? Everyone's got to make choices. So, I'm very comfortable with mine, as a matter of fact. But I will give it the latest inside because and I want to explain. There's an important question that I want to ask. Okay, here's YouTube. Here we go. By the way, I am part of a podcast on Fox News Channel with Paul Morrow. He had me as the guest, and then this is fantastic. Paul is former police commissioner for New York City, and he's also a legal analyst on Fox. You see him on Fox a lot. He can do law enforcement, and then he can also he does legal, and I think he's gonna cover the Reed case, which is fantastic because I'm the one telling him everything that's going on. Oh, sorry about that. So now there's certain things right now. No, we're live in 2 minutes on the radio and everything else. Here's something that, again, there's certain things that I don't post just because the people that support her, like, I have to decide how much time each day I want to waste with them coming after me. But the juror who's now part of the defense, I was the one. I think she's infatuated with Karen Reed, and they're so upset that I'm posting about it. But this is her third trial, I believe, and I know some of the people on X are upset that I'm even drawing attention to certain things, but I just think it's a little. There it is. What's her name? Victoria George. They're the besties. Like they're going to go to brunch. So her and Karen have matching outfits in court today. And I don't say anything because I know I'm the only one in the media that even like. I find that a little odd. Um, hmm. Aaron's got a different body frame, so to speak. Hey, you're not supposed to honk. I'll get the state police out here in just a moment. We're gonna start. We haven't even started yet. Um, but jury selection continues. They have less. I'll explain. I'll explain in just a moment. I think that's a little unusual. And when I posted that on another platform, of course, her supporters are like, "There's nothing wrong with that." And there we go. I think we're live. We are. All right. JR says live. Folks, good afternoon. It is 1:06 on this Thursday, April 3rd. We are coming to you from Dedham, and it is jury selection. This is day 3, started Tuesday, Wednesday, day 3. Now, I'm going to walk you through that a little bit. It was a crazy day getting up here. Number one, the rain. Number two, there's a bizarre story out of Foxborough where this mother with a child in the car started ramming cars. So that certainly threw things off. As I was going in, another reporter, I won't say which one, but one from Channel 7 was saying, "Hey, do you hear what happened at Foxborough?" So it's a little bit of an unusual day, but I'd like to start off right now. We are live on YouTube. We are live on X. We are also live, obviously, on Facebook. Now, you can listen at the website, dpetro.com, which also has links to all of our social media. And then you can also, obviously, we are live on Facebook. And then many times, clips are lifted from this and put on Instagram and TikTok. And again, I want to thank everyone. We're about to hit 101,000 followers on TikTok, which is not easy. And we just hit 91,000 on Facebook. And then all the other platforms are also thriving. So this portion of the program, we're going to do an update on, obviously, the Michele Romano case. And I will be posting that. The links to all of my social media is on the website, dpetro.com, which is right by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. You know, I'm going to call it an audible. I'm going to start off with the Karen Reed story. I'm going to start off just because I'm there and there's some new things that I can report. I haven't seen anyone else's report. I've been in the courthouse all morning. And then I will talk the latest. I do have new information on the Michele Romano case, this tragic story. I've been communicating with the family. As you can imagine, they are devastated. Local media will not leave them alone. They are grieving. It is heartbreaking news. They don't have her remains yet, so they can't plan a funeral. And I have new information on that as well, because I've heard from 2 people, but I'll tell you that in a moment. But let's stay on schedule here for a change. This portion of our program, folks, is brought to you by Propane Plus. Remember, all your heating and cooling, you can depend on Propane Plus. 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus, heating and cooling, 3 generations. You can depend on the Johnson family. And remember, they have a great user-friendly website. Now, what do I mean by that? Not everyone has a user-friendly website. Propane Plus does. You go to propaneplus.com, and then it will say residential or commercial, and you just type in, there it is, your zip code, and boom, you're there. Propane Plus for all your heating and cooling. I'm going to, we're going to zigzag in and out a little bit, but I'll start with the retrial. Now, I want you to understand, this is jury selection. And so you have all the people that are called in for jury selection. There's much less today than there were Tuesday and Wednesday, because from what I understand, they've been getting complaints that people are literally waiting all day, and then some people aren't even screened. So in the courtroom, you have Judge Canoni, obviously on the bench. And then all the jurors fill out questionnaires and so forth. They ask them some questions to start. I want to remind people, it's not, have you ever heard of the Karen Reed case? The question is, have they come to a decision, or is there a bias that could influence their decision? So, and then they are called up, and the lawyers huddle around them. Think of a football huddle where the judge is kind of like the quarterback, and you have the prosecutors to the right, and then the defense on the left, and then the person comes in the middle, and they start to question them. Some of them, some of these huddles, if we want to use that term, are very quick. Others, they say, okay, excuse us for a moment, and then they go off to the side, and then they call them back. Now, this morning, the defendant, Karen Reed, was sitting off of the huddle. Many times, she's at the defense table with her bestie, Victoria George, who I believe, what I've heard, is basically she's supposed to be babysitting Karen. So, and the troopers are everywhere, by the way. We wouldn't, as I've said, this was really difficult to do this last spring when you had just mayhem around. But the buffer zone is the greatest because, first of all, people can just watch at home. If they want to come and show support, they can do it at the end of the hall. But let me just stay on track here. So today, for whatever reason, Karen was there. So the law, the attorneys on both sides, they go through. Now they do have some preemptive strikes. And I want to share with you, today they called the juror back from yesterday, and that was actually a pretty lengthy sidebar. Now, as they are selecting these jurors, both sides are doing research on them. So there could be someone that is saying, oh, I don't know anything about the case. No, I've never followed it. And then they have someone go on some of their, just as an example, some of their social media, and the person's, posting opinion about it. So I would think then they call them back and say, hey, this kind of conflicts, or maybe someone finds a photo of someone that's involved in the case, and then the juror said, no, I don't know anyone involved with the case. And then they bring them back, and maybe both sides or did research and say, hey, wait a minute, this person seems to know. So what I think is going to be really important, and I haven't heard this mentioned. Now, I'm waiting to hear officially from the court. You need to understand, they're not giving running updates. It's usually in the morning. Jim gives us an update in the morning, and then I'll wait and get an update in the afternoon. But what I haven't, and I could be wrong. Christina Rex at WBZ, she may have reported on this. However, but the big question that I have for them is, how many preemptives do they have? For no reason at all, one of the sides could say, I don't want that juror on. And they don't have to, that's it, preemptive. Nope, I don't want them on. And so, but you only get a certain number. You can't do that indefinitely. What I would like to know is if they're allowed back strikes. So if one of the sides does that, the person is then, it's a strike, so they're knocked off the jury. What I haven't heard addressed, now there could be local media that's addressed it, I'm just unfamiliar with it, I'm open to that, but a back strike would be they get 19 jurors, just as an example, or 16, right, because it's 12, and then 4 alternates, or maybe 7 alternates, and then they have the jury, but then one of the sides could say a back strike, which is, we would like to get that person removed. So instead of doing it, so maybe when they left here, both sides were on board with it. But then after maybe they did some research, or for whatever reason, they learned something, but they're allowed a back strike. That I will get clarified this afternoon. Now, the retrial, I also want people to understand, because, and I admit, people will say to me, you're biased. Well, I'm actually, they don't even know what the word biased means. Biased is you're watching a football game, and one of the announcers played for one of the teams, and he can't control himself, and he just starts in giving the coverage. It's like he's rooting for the other team. Biased is what you see on CNN, where they, out of the box, they dislike the president, or MSNBC. That's bias. It's not someone like myself that comes into the case. You don't know anything about it. You look at all the evidence, and then you come to a conclusion. That's not biased. I know people say that, and I feel like they don't even really know what they're talking about. As I have talked about in the past, I accept that what makes this case different, and you're going to hear a lot about it when opening arguments start. This will be, I believe, the biggest case in the New England region since the nanny trial. So here's some people that are coming out, and maybe we may see actually Karen. It's Katie Benoit from NBC 10. So, and they're filming, so the defense may come out during their break. But I have been very clear. I looked at this case, and what I'm asking people, the people that buy into the conspiracy, because that's what it is, I have found, yeah, we may be able to catch Karen Reed coming out. I have found it is pointless to try to, because another reporter was saying to me, well, did you go down and listen to the other side? And my reaction was, I could do that, or I could just go to an insane asylum. I could go to Butler. You're not communicating with them. They're just regurgitating what they've been told and what they then now believe. They're actually not looking for the truth. So it's, in my mind, why would I do that? It's pointless. They don't know how to react. They don't answer anything. They're just repeating what they have, in essence, been told. So, but with this case, and you're going to hear things about it, I've heard people, I'll see comments, people just say, oh, the corruption. Again, it was a federal investigation that found no police corruption. If police make a mistake, that doesn't mean that's corruption. And as someone that deals with police literally every single night, mistakes are made. They have someone's wrong age. That doesn't mean that that's corruption, and then they throw out the whole thing. They sometimes, in an address, maybe they mean 99, and it's actually 109. That's not corruption. I've had situations many times they have the name spelled wrong, but that's the name given to them at the scene. That's not a form of corruption. There's always certain things that can happen, but someone misjudging a scene, that doesn't mean corruption. So for those that say, oh my God, there's so much corruption with this case, there was a federal investigation that found no corruption. But for the people that are part of her supporters, and I also find it's ironic now. So Karen, the other day when she was coming out of the court, and here she is, 44 years old, and she's like, oh, excuse me, I'm having pickle chips. Like a 13-year-old. I mean, who could listen to that? And then she says, oh, and my attorneys, well, I'm not paying. Well, I've heard that her bestie, Vicky George, that she took the fall on that because you're not, number one, why are you even talking to the, yeah, I'm having pickle chip. Like, what are you talking about? Just say, hey, I got to get back inside. I can't say anything right now. And why are you announcing that you're not back? I mean, they have said that. They've said it in interviews, but from what I was told, they didn't appreciate that she just keeps going on and on about it. So for those that say, I've heard about it, what's the deal? I have people literally every day ask me that. I've been crystal clear where I stand on this. When I looked at this case, I didn't know if it was going to go to trial. There's just certain elements of this. I've covered, I was counting the other night. I think I've now covered 25 to 30 trials. I'd have to actually really sit down and go through the years. But you just learn things. Each week when you watch, I do a legal segment, you learn things like that. By being with police every night, you learn a lot. So this business of, you think she's guilty because you like police. Listen, I literally, usually those of you who watch Road Patrol, I literally am with police every single night. And yes, I do work with them and I do ride with them. But so I don't think they're corrupt. All these cops are corrupt. I don't believe that. The court system is the court system is not corrupt. So for those that feel that way, by the way, you are absolutely entitled if you want to believe that. But if someone's going to convince me that at least 15 people are part of this conspiracy. I don't believe it. This, if you're new and you want to follow it, you have to follow its evidence. It's evidence. And there's no evidence that John O'Keefe was ever inside that house. There's no evidence at all. And on top of that, as I have talked about in the past, Brian Albert is a legendary Boston police officer. I covered him on several cases. He's the real deal. I covered him on the Craigslist. I mean, to think that he would lay a hand on a fellow officer is preposterous. So all of this business of these people being blamed, I'm telling you right now, I'm not even convinced that it's going to be a major part of this retrial. I don't see it. The idea that he walked in, Alan Jackson, who is Karen Reed's defense attorney, and I want to touch on this because it's important. And it was in the docuseries on this, but let me just stay on schedule. Folks, I want to remind you, hey, when disaster strikes, you can depend on ServPro of Providence. Remember, water damage, fire, mold, storm recovery, fast, thorough, professional. ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500. 401-941-5500. Now, I share their Facebook page. Many times when you see when we're out on road patrol and there is a devastating fire, right, a company, a business, something goes up, who's going to go in? Who can handle the fire damage? Who can handle all the water damage after a fire? ServPro, that's your phone call. 401-941-5500. When disaster hits, you need ServPro of Providence. And remember, they're available 24/7. I want to stay with what I was just mentioning about Alan Jackson, the defense attorney. Now, what you need to know is he is a shell of himself. He is not the way it was last year. Last year, he comes flying in. He's very LA, and he's with the diet and the way he acts. He represented Kevin Spacey, very accomplished LA attorney, represented Harvey Weinstein, and the fact he, as I have said, he would have like a daily press conference walking into court, have a daily press conference outside of court, and I think inside court they were a little intimidated by him, and I can see that. He's very gifted with his speaking ability, but since he has been caught less than truthful with the court, I think you could say lied, but less than truthful, misrepresenting. It's a different game, and you can't ignore that. There's a gag order in this case. You can't ignore that. They don't have this free-flowing. They were constantly putting information out to the press. You don't have that. Right now, as someone that, what do? I sit there and I'm studying all the different personalities involved. Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor, is king of the court. And many of the cases that I've seen and have followed and covered, many times, not all the time, but many times, whoever has the larger presence attorney, more often than not, wins. It doesn't always happen that way. The Buddy Cianci trial, with Buddy Cianci, he had Richard Egbert. Richard Egbert was a brilliant attorney. Richard Egbert was in-house counsel for the Winter Hill gang. I mean, he handled more criminals than a lot of people, but he was so much better than the U.S. attorney and the special prosecutors. Richard Rose, Donnelly was okay, but Egbert was really talented, and the guy knows the law, knew the law, rest in peace, inside and out. That was the one time, not the one time, but that was a time. If anyone could have gotten him off, it would have been Egbert. But in this particular situation, Hank Brennan right now is king of the court. He's got it locked down. He and the judge are in motion. She is hell-bent on getting this trial started on time, fairly. Brennan is totally going through these jurors more than they did last time around, when they got some people on the jury that seemingly misrepresented their beliefs, much like the juror that's now part of the Karen Reed defense. And as a result of that, I believe this time they're moving at rapid speed. Judge Canoni knows her reputation is on the line. I also want you to know, I float around the courthouse. I talk to so many different people inside the courthouse. Why do I do that? because there's a lot of information in that courthouse of people, and sometimes I have found they're looking for someone to tell it to, but they didn't like the way they were portrayed. They don't like that, the court's a joke, the judge is a joke, the police are a joke. Who would like that? They certainly don't like it. So my mind right now, Hank Brennan is king of the court. Yannetti and Jackson are the skunks at the garden party. Alan Jackson is a shell of what he was a year ago at this time. But I want to stay on Jackson and what he said in the Body of Snow docuseries that I saw on HBO. I think there's other platforms you can watch it on. I also want to, right now, I want to remind people, I am going to talk about the Michele Romano case, but staying with this, remember Kids Club on the Pike. I told you about Kids Club on the Pike, birthday parties, before and after school program, summer camp, Kids Club on the Pike. They offer summer camp. They're right off of 295. They're right on the Cranston-Johnson line. It's Kids Club on the Pike. And you can call them at 401-443-5336. Call Kristen, reserve the spot for your child. Maybe it's for a week. Maybe it's for a month. Maybe it's for the whole summer. It's your business. Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. So I'm going to talk about Michele Romano in just a moment. But right now, we are in Dedham, and we're across the street. I was sitting in this morning, and I'll also be in court tomorrow. Karen Reed, the retrial jury selection. And you learn a lot by watching how they interact. And I can tell you that defense attorney Alan Jackson is not the same. He's just not the same lawyer that he was in the last trial. And you can say that's unfair, the judge is corrupt, blah, blah, blah. That stuff it doesn't mean anything. I don't even know what people mean when they say free Karen Reed. Like, what is that? What are you talking about? But I want to come back to the docuseries. And by the way, as I've said before, if you're one of the people that believe the conspiracy, I'm not going to be the one to talk you out of it. I don't even attempt to. It's pointless. If people go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy, good luck. I'm just glad I'm not related to anyone like that, or I don't work next to anyone that just wants to talk about it all day. But I want to go back to what Jackson said in the docuseries, which was, because I think the question was, well, how come no one in the House heard what was going on? And Jackson said, well, I can see a scenario where they say, there's Ted Daniel, by the way, walking by, where they say, hey, John, come on in the house. We want to show you something in the basement. And then without warning or motive, they proceeded to beat him to death. And then, is he out? Yeah, he's unconscious. He looks like he could die. Okay, let's throw him on the front lawn. The idea that they could do that in 8 minutes. And I also want that no one talks about that John O'Keefe was, rest in peace, but I mean, the guy, he was 6'2". He was a Boston cop. I'm not saying he was an MMA fighter, but there were no scrapes on his hands. I'd like to think that a 6'2" cop could at least get in a punch, or there'd be something where there was no one has any bruises or anyone. No one looks like they got in anything. And I come back to, so we're to believe that, hey, John, oh, great, you made it. You're here. Yeah, come down, and then walk him down. You're here. Great. Now, for no reason, we're going to kill you in the basement with no motive and murder weapon. Folks, think about that. It's not logical. And then on top of that, there's train tracks near there. I mean, if I'm one of the people that did this, I'd like to think I'd say, hey, maybe we should throw him near the train tracks. At least then they'll say, oh, it must have been snowing and he was drunk and he slipped on the train track. But and 8 minutes is really key, because that's when his phone stopped moving outside. So to follow Alan Jackson's version of events, his third-party culprit, they walk him in. Hey, now they were just drinking with him. They were just, hey, come on over. But for no reason, they decide they're going to beat him to death. Now, Brian Higgins watched the Patriots game at his house. Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, was friendly with him. Brian Higgins was reluctant on Karen Reed's advances because of his friendship with John O'Keefe. I challenge anyone to name an example where for no reason, remember, with every murder, is motive, means, and opportunity. Those are the things that come into play. Motive, means, and opportunity. When this case was first presented to me, I said, well, what was the motive? Here's what I was told. Well, there was no motive. So they're gonna beat a fellow officer to death that they were just drinking with no motive and no murder weapon. I didn't see it in July of 23. I didn't even know if it would go to trial. I kept being told it's not even going to go to trial, but I didn't understand it then. And the idea that that many people are all in on it, could keep a secret. I, I I've never heard of a situation like that. So no motive, no murder weapon. The opportunity was that he was in the house, even though there's no evidence that puts him in the house. Folks, for the people that say, well, cops stick together, the reason no one's talking is cops stick together. Well, if cops stick together, why did they kill one of their own? It doesn't it doesn't make any sense. What makes far more sense to me is the case that the prosecution is going to put on, which is she is, and I think these are my words, she is like unstable. She had 9 drinks. She had Karen Reed was a functioning alcoholic, and she exploded that night. And they were in an argument, and she didn't want to go in the house, and he was like, "The hell with you." Listen, he's an Irish bachelor, moved into town. Come on, they had been together 2 years. That's usually the point where then it's like, break off, do the 2-year thing, and then find someone new. Whatever. There'd be someone else showing up in his messages or whatever. I mean, he didn't seem like he was. He seemed like he felt the relationship had run its course. So, like, whatever. I don't have time for drama. You go on your way. Fine. I'm going. I want to drink with this crew. And she lost her temper and then rammed the car back into him. That is what makes the most obvious sense, because that is what I believe the prosecution will prove is what happened. And but I caution you to follow the evidence in the case, because there's no evidence that he was ever inside that house. 9 people swore he never entered the house. And of those 9 people, none of them, if people want to go down the rabbit hole of, well, they're all lying, right? So that's the defense, liar, liar, pants on fire. Okay, so the paramedics, the police, and the people in the house, I find it very difficult to believe that number of people could keep their mouths shut. And the more that I've gotten to know about the case, I think it's actually impossible. Many times, 3 people can't keep a secret. 3 people can't be part of something. Many times when we're covering these different cases, there is someone that has rolled on the others. So the idea that many people, and I also want to just touch on this business of that police planted evidence. Why would you do that? Why would you go to jail? Why would you ruin your life? Why would you ruin your career? Why did someone gets called to the scene and, hey, listen, we need you to plant some evidence to frame someone. And the person, the Massachusetts State Trooper says, now I want you to understand, I will lose my job. I will go to jail. I'm going to lose everything I have. But okay, and why would someone do that? Well, because they're cops and they stick together. Well, if they're cops and they stick together, why did they just kill one of their own? I don't believe any of it was planted. I don't. And on top of that, there was a federal investigation that didn't find any evidence of a conspiracy. Now, right now, if there's someone listening or watching and you're saying all cops lie and it was planted, or the big, she was framed by who? Framed why? What are you talking about? I want to touch on the Canton police in just a moment. But folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Roof Co. Rhode Island. It's so important to have the proper roof on your home or business. Roofco RI, Roofco, Rhode Island. Call them 401-868-7149. Now remember, Roofco RI. There could be wind damage. Maybe it's an old roof, leaky roof, missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing. Roofco, Rhode Island. Is it time for a new roof? Call them, get a free estimate, 401-868-7149. 401-868-7149 for Roofco, Rhode Island. This portion of the program is brought to you by Watson Materials. Spring is supposedly here. Folks, call Watson Materials today. South County Trail. Call Sean, 401-885-0600. Watson Materials, the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. And they have it all. And what a difference they're going to make on your outside. Watson Materials, landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600, 401-885-0600 for Watson Materials. Now, I don't know members of the Canton Police Department. I don't. However, many times I have talked about, let's just talk about Rhode Island just for a moment. I'm going to answer some of my own questions. Who has the most experience handling crime scenes? Providence does. Why does Providence? Because they handle the highest volume. That's no knock against Cranston. That's no knock against Pawtucket. That's no knock against any of the other. They handle the most. Providence handles more homicides than the state police. Now, there are some police departments that don't handle a lot of crime scenes, depending on where they are. I'll give an example. East Greenwich doesn't handle a lot of homicides. I don't think there was a homicide in East Greenwich last year. With this missing persons, human remains found, what did Foster police do? They called in the state police. Why? Well, they don't handle a lot of that stuff. They don't need to. So they don't have the equipment for it. They're not geared for it. The same thing when Johnston had that nutcase where the guy killed his mother and then he killed his neighbor and went on the rampage, and the Cranston police blew him away. I was told that the head of the Johnston homicide division in the police department had actually never handled a homicide before. So my point is, the town of Canton, they don't handle, I don't think they had a murder last year. They don't handle a lot of that. That's why there's nothing suspicious about it. That's why then the Massachusetts State Police come in and handle it. Now, is there anyone right now that says, I think it's odd that Foster, the town of Foster, that they're not handling the Michele Romano case, and instead they called in the Rhode Island State Police? You can think that, but there's nothing odd about it at all. That's their protocol. They don't handle that type of stuff. Now, one more note about, at 138, about the Karen Reed trial before I talk about Michele Romano. And I want to be crystal clear. If you want to believe in the conspiracy, as I have stated, and I will continue, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I'm not. To me, it's a waste. It's a wasted exercise. I think it's a waste. I have found it's a waste of time. When people go into the rabbit hole of the conspiracy, I'm not going to be the one. I don't have the time, the patience. It makes no difference to me. But other people who have not followed it, or you're undecided, all I would say is, and I hear the whole thing, she was framed, and there's dog bites, and blah, blah, blah. All I would say is, watch the prosecution, watch the case that they're going to put on. And I think it's going to be very clean. I know Hank Brennan, really gifted. I've seen, I don't know, how many attorneys have I seen covering all these trials? He's one of the most gifted that I've seen, because he's able to explain things in really easy to understand terms. He has a way, he can do it in a concise manner. Watch the case that he's going to put on. And then, if you're one of those people and you still want to say, the judge is corrupt, she was framed, free currency, like that whole blanking mantra. Go ahead, like whatever. As I've told people, 100 people showed up in Dallas uh, the summer of 21 in August because they thought JFK Jr. was alive. I knew one of them. She was a follower of mine. I didn't try to stop her. She asked, "Hey, have you thought about broadcasting from Dallas?" And I responded, why would I be broadcasting from Dallas? This was August of 2021. Why would I be broadcasting from Dallas why would I be doing it in August? Well, because John's alive. He's going to reemerge at Daley Plaza where the father was assassinated. Yeah, that's the place he wants to come back to. I have been in hiding, and now that I'm going to come out, I'm going to return to where my father was assassinated to be Trump's VP. That didn't exactly pan out. My point is, I didn't try to stop them. I just said, hey, have a good time. Tell my son hello. What am I going to say to someone? And they flew down. So with this case, just watch how this is going to play out. And I understand. Listen, the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth, they underestimated the defense. They underestimated just how big this thing had grown. They underestimated a lot of this because it is rare, but it's also unusual to be able to drag people in on a conspiracy. I actually can't think of, off the top of my head, a local case, certainly not in Rhode Island, where there was conspiracy involved. Not that I can think of. I know, and it's totally different, but the Scott Hornoff case, he was a Warwick police officer. He lied to police, and he got in trouble for it, and he went to jail for it. But that's not exactly the same. But for those of you, and you know what else is just kind of comical is these people that say, I'm so disappointed in you. I agree with you on everything. Well, did it ever occur to you that maybe I'm right and you're wrong? Like, why does it have to be, I'm so disappointed in you? Julie Grant on Court TV, Outsider, looked at this. She's like, I think I feel very good about what happened here. Same thing, Fox News Channel is the latest they have out on this. They don't believe the conspiracy. So, but there are people that believe it, and I have found that generally people that have never followed a trial before, and they just, maybe people are content with it. I heard from a woman, and she does follow us, and she said everyone in my office talks about it, and it's like a game, and they go in and they go all these different theories. If that helps the time pass, then like whatever. So, but we are here now, and I'll be posting on it, and it'll continue. I think they're going to be going in the next week. I think they're going to be going in the next week, and I think we're actually going to be done earlier today. I don't think they're going to keep these people as long as they have. All right, I want to talk about the Michele Romano case, and that is a case that we have been on, and I feel, as I've told many of you, I feel terrible for the family, and I want to share with you something that I've been hearing from people. And this should also change. So I told you how the family, Michele Romano, went missing last July. And in the fall, I was alerted to the case. And so I met with Michele's sister, I met with her daughter Fallon, and we did a series of videos to draw attention to the case. And what I've also learned, and I didn't know, is that some friends of Michele were on their own calling local media and trying to get them to pick up on the case, and would get nothing. I also learned, and I don't even have an explanation for this, but one of her friends said that she called down the dial, radio, WPRO, several times to say, could we talk about this person I know is missing, and blah, 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 and there's a page on Facebook, help us find Michele Romano, and they would either hang up on her or just say, we're not doing the story. That is embarrassing to me. That is insulting to her family, how you just dismiss it like that. And not, what would it have harmed for one of the people there to just let them on the air, to mention it, to talk about it? I can't believe the insensitivity of certain members of the media to when people are really just trying to get the word out about a missing person and trying to build awareness. Like what was so important? Are they still talking about the blanking bridge? Like what was so or running cover for Governor McGreed? Like what is so important that they felt the need? Oh no, we're not talking about that. They didn't talk about the Charlotte Lester case. Again, I don't like when people tell me what type of content I should do, so I'm always hesitant on criticizing other content other people do, but like to me, that's an example. They have a large platform, and it's wasted. And what would it have really hurt if they had allowed a phone call of someone to say we have a Facebook page up, this person is missing, and her name's Michele Romano, and and we're trying to find her. So you hang up on them? That is beyond insanity. I want to remind you about Arch Design Builders. They are so fantastic. Ed and Roxanne with Arch Design Builders. Call them today, 401 207 4124. 401 207 4124 for Arch Design Builders. Now, maybe it's for a new kitchen. Maybe it's for a new bathroom. Maybe it's for a new basement or a deck or a special project. And as a matter of fact, they're going to be appearing at the home show that is coming up. And Roxanne sent me a little note on that. And let me just pull it up. You can meet them and show you everything that let me just find my nice, nope, that's not it, email where you can, if not, I'll definitely have it tomorrow. Hold on, I think I just had it. There it is, okay. We're going to be at the home show on April 10th to the 13th, booth 804 at the Rhode Island Convention Center. You can come and meet my friends, Ed and Roxanne, they are just fantastic. But they are going to be at the home show, April 10th to the 13th, booth 804 at the Rhode Island Convention Center. Hey, stop by and talk to Arch Design Builders. You're going to love them. I love them. I was just with them last week. They are remarkable. And I implore you to contact them. These are the type of people that you want to do business with. Arch Design Builders. Call them 401-218-9707. A lot of people do go to the home show coming up at the convention center. If you go into the home show, find their booth, stop by and say hello at Arch Design Builders. Now, we had Stephanie on yesterday. I received an email. Stephanie Murphy of Marin, Barron & Murphy. She's great. That was terrific yesterday. I think that was one of our better segments that we've done. Marin, look at this, the sun is coming out. Marin, Barron & Murphy, criminal defense attorneys, 50 years combined criminal defense experience. Your fight becomes their fight. Call them at 401-228-8271. 401-228-8271 from Marin, Barron & Murphy. Well, folks, good afternoon with Michele Romano. So where does it stand? They are going through that house. We were there again last night. We may be there tonight. State Police Crime Lab is there. The Warwick Police are there. I found something very interesting. The individual that owns that home is friendly with someone, I think it's odd. I'm not sure what to make of it just yet, but very friendly with a high-profile individual involved with Rhode Island corrections. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it either. But what we know was last July was when Michele, who was so loving, so beautiful, and gentle, and she just had such a nice way about her, and she was such a proud mom and loving sister, and all of a sudden, the owner of the house contacted her daughter and said, Yeah, you got to come get her dog. She's no longer here. Well, where'd she go? I don't know. She left. And the family, I feel terrible for them. They have been through hell. This is something I didn't know until I started doing some of these missing person stories, folks. And it is so cruel to the family because their life stops when, and I've talked about this, when I had a chance to really interview John Foreman, Jason Foreman's dad, that little boy that disappeared, it destroyed the family. It destroyed the family. You can't, and that was, John Foreman has talked about it. That was in the 70s. You didn't have email, so they didn't go away on vacation. They always wanted to have someone at the house in case he came home or they got word. Every time there was the phone rang, they thought maybe it's news on Jason. Every time they got the mail, every time someone came to the house, for years, their life came to a halt, and they lived on edge until they found, tragically, he had been down the street in Michael Woodmanseen's home the whole time. It's just torturous on the family, and we watched it again with the Charlotte Lester case, with what her beautiful family went through. It's so cruel. And with Michele Romano as Valerie, her sister, who loved and tried to protect her younger sister, was telling me, the fact that she was just tossed aside into the woods, like she didn't matter to anybody, like she was rubbish, and just thrown there. She was loved. She had children. She had family. So now, has anyone been charged? No. And this is going to take a while. I can tell you that this is not an easy case, despite what anybody says, because she was living at the house that she was in. So her DNA would be everywhere. They don't. I also want to mention to people, because people are asking me, they don't just come out and tell you everything that they know. I know people would want to know that, but the police don't do that because the less the better. Otherwise, the individual that they're looking at can backfill the story, right? They can backfill the story. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey today, 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now, they can do sport court resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball. They can make your pavement look like new. They also offer crack filling, pothole repair, line striping. They also epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring, quality asphalt seal coating. Call them today, free estimate, 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815 for quality asphalt seal coating. With the Michele Romano case, something has to change. You have this beautiful family. This is the second high-profile case out of Warwick the past couple of years. The thing about a missing persons case, as we have demonstrated, is there is a uniqueness about it. It doesn't happen all the time. That's why it is unusual when someone goes missing. And you know what else? The other part, I hope many of you noticed, when we were doing the Charlotte Lester investigation, I was in front of Mark Perkins' house. Some of you may remember, we had a hard time with that neighbor. Some of the neighbors giving us a hard time. It was embarrassing. I mean, at times I've been tempted to go back there and say something to that guy, but then it's like, what's the point? But we had it again the other night with the neighbor. I'm standing in the street. The neighbor, what are you doing here? Well, there's someone, like, what are you, listen, you should know what the hell is going on. I don't know what to make of that. And that is a nice area, kind of near the water, but I don't know what to make of these people. And then we had it the other night in Cranston. As I think of it, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. It doesn't seem out of the ordinary. That woman who was screaming at me and Chrissy and, dropping F-bombs and the whole thing. And we were trying to say, listen, you should be concerned about little Linda who's missing, and instead she just kept telling us to get the hell out of there. I, I don't know. I don't know what to make. I don't know what to make of that. As I think about it, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Is what I'm trying to say. The more I think about it, it happens more often than not that there's like an annoying, insensitive neighbor that just I don't. They try to. I think their thought is that if they frighten me or intimidate me or yell or make noise, that I'll leave. But what they don't understand is that ensures that I stay. And this seems to happen quite a bit. And we've had times, those of you that watch Road Patrol, I'm about to leave. And then the neighbor starts causing a ruckus. Or they start saying, you can't film here. And what do I say? Go talk to the police. Why are you bothering me? Listen, I don't speak English. No English. No English. And then they'll say, yeah, but I could hear you talking English in the feed. No, that translates me. It's very deceptive that way. No English. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I am surprised. I don't get it. But the Michele Romano case, we're going to follow this. Now, at the appropriate time, when they're ready, I envision we're going to do a live stream with Stephanie, with Fallon. They're beautiful people. I just think the world of her sister, who it's just heartbreaking to them, and I understand it. But I want you to know that when we were on this case last fall, you never want this to be the outcome. I admit, with little Linda in Cranston, I mean, that was just such a shock, and that she was alive, and I love that. But I don't know, something. Let's wait and see. As I said, I don't think it's an easy case. I'd be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if there's a quick arrest and watch they arrest someone today. But I do have an update coming on that I will put on the website, which is depetro.com. Who else did I want to mention? There they are. J. Perry Paving. Call them today, 401-732-1730. They have a great discount for veterans. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. Call them, free estimate, paving your driveway, paving your parking lot. 401-732-1730. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. We share their Facebook page. Free estimate. What a difference it's going to make. Letter J. J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, at 1:58, again, this is, yes, the real news. Now, coming up at 2 o'clock, if you're listening to the radio, you're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. In 90 seconds, I'm about to walk across the street, and I mainly use X to post updates regarding Karen Reed jury selection. But then later today, we'll see what breaks. We may be back in front of the House with the Michele Romano case. We know it's still labeled a suspicious death. She was missing, and all of a sudden her body ends up in Foster, Rhode Island. So she didn't walk there. So how did she find there? I also want to be very clear. I do have some information on the case. Due to the sensitivity with the family, I am admittedly withholding information. At the appropriate time, I will release it. But some people have been very, very helpful with some information, and I'm getting a clearer picture on what happened. All right, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm heading back into the courthouse. Again, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned. You're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. Everybody else, we will see you later on, and it'll be Road Patrol Live on this Thursday.